The cost of construction, it is a war zone out there. We're going to talk about the cost of construction and how it's affecting everyday living for everybody. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Who are we going to blame for the cost of construction? You. What do you reckon, Josh? Josh Rapshot,
Yeah,
expert salesperson. Why is construction so expensive in Sydney? What has happened?
well, we're talking about this just off air, guys. I think we've highlighted the three major reasons for the cost of construction. First being, I think we've all been there trying to book a tradie in. There's a low labour supply to the market, so with high demand, so that skills shortage. Definitely think that has to play a role. Like you've definitely heard out amongst the trades in quoting at the moment seems to be quoting very high and seeing what sticks out amongst that market. So there's obviously that part of it. I think a major part that stems on from our COVID
Have you got a
time.
degree?
Pardon?
Have you got a degree?
Yes, I do.
There's your problem. No one's
You want to
talked
elaborate?
about this one. No one's
Yeah,
talked about this one. What did you study in your degree?
finance.
And now you're a real estate agent.
Yep,
So this is a massive problem. It has added to the cost of construction. The generation before my generation, everyone was a tradie. Everyone left school at year 9, maybe year 10. They went out into the workforce. They laboured. They did a trade, and they built this country. And now every parent, your parent, me, we educate our kids. We give them a degree. So we are specking up, very intelligent, our whole community. But where is the labour coming from to build these properties? Because you have got a degree that you haven't even used. And every parent is putting their kid through degrees. They're taking 4 years at not being in the workforce, and they're doing a degree that often they're not using, which, don't get me wrong, I did the same thing and I'd probably do it again, but with my kids, but there's less labour out there. What does that do? Makes labour more expensive, makes building more expensive. Then there's immigration, and they want to bring in less immigrants, less labour force, pressure on building costs again.
definitely right there, Mark. And then we head to our next one, which probably stems from COVID times, and that's the global supply chain network, or your cost of materials. Dramatically, we've seen cost of materials, even your basic core flutes and woods and concrete. I've seen prices of builders, developers that I've spoken to. These small items have tripled in price. Some of them. So I think there's a massive cost addition of obviously building if your raw materials are 3 times the price. So that's another big one with supply chain still playing catch up in regards to that. And we saw a lot of people go through with builders such as, like, your Metricon like supply builders, where they booked in contracts with a figure in mind, and then all of a sudden these costs blew out, and these projects never got finished, and now these people are left with half finished homes, and we've got an array of businesses that have folded during that transition of increased cost of materials.
That's number 2. We're going to go on to number 3, but at the end, I'm going to give you a summary and tying that back to an exact price of a unit in Sydney, what it costs to build and what it costs to profit, what it costs to land, or we're going to reverse engineer back what we're talking about. What you've just said, Josh, I'll put it really simple. In the last 5 years, 30, we put a spear, we stabbed 35% of our productivity. So what's going to happen? So if you're going to put a knife to 35% for 2 years out of the 3 years they were weird, they didn't operate like they used to operate, that's gonna affect all supply chains, all materials, all costs. So, whether it's a car or whether it's a property, which we're talking about today, it affects the value. You don't have to work out why. It just did. The world was weird for 1 or 2 years through that COVID period over the last 5 years, and now we're paying for it in supply chains and costs. So that's it. That simple.
Definitely. And Mark, do you want to touch on our third topic there in regards to regulations, red tape there? I think we've definitely seen an increase. Some probably good in the development space and off the plan, like your sunset clauses and those bonds now that are paid for security for owners, but definitely a lot of red tape around construction that seems a bit. You want to elaborate a little bit more?
I'll give you an analogy. We don't want to have people die on the roads due to speed. So we reduce the speed limit across New South Wales down to 5 kilometres. Now we're good. So in one way, with compliance, we've done a terrific job with making it 5 kilometres an hour on the road, but now nobody can get around the city. They can't commute. They can't get around. It takes 10 times longer. Same thing with building. They have made it so compliant, so stringent that the cost to productivity, the cost to the system has just become inhibitive to actually build buildings. That simple.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think the evidence of that, guys, we had this massive LMI, low to mid density changes that were swept across through the Minns government. And in the Northern Beaches, you would have seen it going everywhere, but we've only had 2 applications actually submitted. So it goes to show that you make all these changes. It was meant to bring in all the supply or some new developments across the beaches, but been very limited, very, very limited. And that's because with all these factors, the margins aren't there. The risk for reward for developers isn't there. It once you couple it in and being on the side of selling these types of properties where developers are looking into it, once you really reverse engineer it and look back, you take in the costs of putting together some of these sites and you think, wow, like, your land value astronomical. If you're getting something that big in Northern Beaches, you're going to pay a pretty penny for it. Like we've said, your cost of construction, if you're looking at luxury or even a nice finishes, you're looking at anywhere between sort of 8,000 and 12,000 a square meter to build. So once you put all that together and you're still quite constrained by FSR and height limits, the amount of units you can build and sell on market doesn't make sense for developers taking on these costs and risks. Is that what you'd say, Mark?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to understand this. I'm going to put it into real layman's terms. And this compliance started getting really strict in 21, 22. But let me put it into layman's terms. To build a box, I call a box a unit, whether it's a 1, 2, or 3. Let's just blend the rate, right? If you want to build a unit in 2019, you were spending $3 to $350 a box. Now, with cost of finance is another reason your funding is double or triple what it was as well. All the 3 things we just spoke about with materials, with labor, all of those with compliance, all those things. To build a box in Sydney, a 1, 2, or 3, let's just blend it. It was $650, it's now heading towards $700K. What does that mean? 700,000 does not include the land. 700,000 does not include any profit for the person that's putting the money down and executing the build. So you work it out. It's 700 a box. no profit, no land. If you want to make 30, say it's $1 million for a unit to buy a brand new unit, 700,000 of that is going to be build. Three or 400,000 is going to be profit. You're not going to do it for a 10% profit. You want to see, for a 5-year project or a 3-year project, you want to see a 20 or 30 or 30% profit. So say 300 grand. Where's your land? There's no, you got to buy the land. Now, if you're spending on land 2 or 300 grand, profit 300, box 700, land 2 or 300, you're 1.2 to 1.3 to build a box. A 1 bedroom unit anywhere in Sydney is going to cost you 1.3. Work it out.
It's crazy when you put it that way, and I guess unless you're having these conversations with people that are doing this every day, and guys, that information is coming straight from big developers, not doing one site, 2 sites, but sites all over the country, and have all the data to stipulate what Mark's saying just there. And I think that's a massive thing. So definitely take that in to build a box, 700,000 without land, without profit. And that's exactly why we're not seeing the amount of buildings going up that we'd expect after such a big change from the Minns government. And you've broken it up perfectly there, Mark.
And Josh, I don't care if people say they can't afford it. You don't have a choice. Like if if you're buying a new unit for under $1 million, what are you gonna? It's costing that much to build it. It's costing 650 to 700K just the build. No profit, no land, just the build. So at the end of the day, I think you can turn around and say property's actually cheap. Because if you're
Yeah,
building a box for 750 to 800, property at the moment, units at the moment are cheap relative to the actual real cost of business to supply that apartment.
even for houses as well. Remember, we had that beautiful place down in Bayview that you and Lise had, and we said to a builder, what would it cost to build this today? And it was almost 3/4 of the price just in build costs of what it actually sold for. So there is a huge amount of value there that people aren't realizing, because to do it in today's market, it'll cost you an arm and a leg.
Yep, absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mr.
So
Wapshot, thank you very much.
thank you, Mr. Novak, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Guys, yeah, big topic this, and I think this is something that's definitely going to stick with us all.
The moral of the story is I would be buying strata, not houses at the moment, whether it's to live in or for investment. I think they are undervalued and they are underpriced. And I think there's going to be an enormous amount of capital growth in that sector. Strata units.
There you go, guys. Heard it here first from Mr. Novak himself, and he's got a little equation that gives him that theory of units playing a bit of catch up on capital growth and equity. So I definitely see that happening in the future.
Novak Investment House, we represent.
That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Josh. Cheers.